We have some future leaders. It's okay, you can raise them high.
There are two questions you want to ask yourself. What is your strength and what is your interest?
How do I start to assess the landscape of the company?
First, you define your problem. What kind of problem you're trying to solve?
Start now. Now is the time to do anything and everything. It's a learning curve for all of us.
It goes back to communication. That's the common thread in everything.
Using that human element to actually identify the boundaries.
You have no idea what you have in common with people until you talk with them and you're in a room with them.
Thank you for bringing this to GroundTruth. GroundTruth are the leaders in location. We're a global location platform. We leverage location data to drive business performance. We also own WeatherBug, and I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this because Herschel, who's over there, works on WeatherBug, and she is the expert. But WeatherBug is our consumer-facing app that we have about 14 million monthly visitors. People are spending about 3 minutes per day of engagement in the app. More than 2 out of 3 of the user base are really, really loyal users, and we have about a 4.5 plus star rating in Apple and Google Play app stores. So really strong app. We've spent a lot of time since we acquired it about 2 years ago, really investing in the app, growing in it, and really excited about where we stand with it today. So that's the quick overview of GroundTruth. I'm happy to stick around and answer any more questions about who we are as a company, but I think you guys are probably a little bit more interested in hearing about location in general. So making sense of location, determining a visit. So again, everything we do is kind of based in that idea of a visit, and it comes down to 3 things. It comes down to accurate lat long for location, blueprinted places, and I'm going to get into each of these and what they mean a little bit more, and then putting those 2 things together to determine a visit to a place. So it's a location and a place together equals a visit. When it comes to location data, all mobile location data is essentially collected through Android and iOS location services and passed down through apps. But it is what you do with that location that matters. I always say not all location players are created equal because location does come in a lot of shapes and sizes. The three main sources for location data: GPS. GPS is considered the most accurate, but there are some limitations if you're in like a really heavy metropolitan area or somewhere with bad weather conditions where it can get a little bit hazy. Wi-Fi is the second. Devices do not need to be connected to a hotspot to be picked up on Wi-Fi. And then the third is a cell tower. So devices sending location of nearby cell towers triangulate the phone's position. So GPS, Wi-Fi, cell tower, those are the 3 main sources of location. And then what we do, companies like GroundTruth, when we get these location signals passed down to us, we take a little bit of effort to weed out sort of what we call, well, what I'm going to call the junk of location. So there's certain things, centroids, for example. This is one of my favorite fun facts to throw out. One of the most popular lat longs that gets passed down to companies like ours is for Potwin, Kansas. Does anybody have an idea what Potwin, Kansas might be? It's the exact center of the United States. So there's these things called centroids, which are literally like the center of a city or a state or the United States that get passed down. So there's a couple of checks looking for fraudulent signals, randomized lat longs, carrier IP detection, anything that might just look like it's not actually an accurate location signal that we take the time to go through and scrub. The second piece of this is place determination, so providing context for where somebody is. We map boundaries around a location, so it's not just a point on a map. We look for a store. We can say, here's a store in one location. We're actually going to draw a geo-boundary around that store and determine it as a place in our system. We call this blueprints. And what's interesting about blueprints is there is a level of sort of human that needs to go into this. So everything has a boundary around it made up of lat longs. It takes that sort of second level of looking at a map and actually drawing the location around that business to determine that that is actually a place. And why that's important is because there are a bunch of different ways that you can do place mapping. And why what we do, we take the time to actually draw around these businesses is so important. So I'm going to go through just a couple of these common ways of defining places. The first one being a store address. So a lot of times people will say, okay, we're going to call this store address a location and then just put a geofence around it. So what happens, you can see in this example, is you're actually missing a lot of the actual store. You're just doing a radius around whatever that pinpoint is on the street, and up on that corner, that's not actually even, most of it's not even hitting the business. The second part of, the second way that is pretty common to use is what's called parcel data. So parcel data is more like when you think about what the Postal Service uses. So this is great. It does actually capture some of the store, but it also in that picture captures Verizon, GameStop, Rent-A-Center, Subway, Dollar Tree. It's just not that precise. So then store-based radio, this is if you say the same sort of idea around an address, but you drop a pin in the middle of a business and then draw a radius around it. Again, you can see all of the wasted impressions that you might go if you define a place based on just that. And then finally, polygons, which is a common method for defining location based on a store center. And then blueprints, the way that we define places, is taking that one step further and taking those polygons, using that human element to actually identify the boundaries of a store based on the lat longs, and being very precise about where you are in the store and the different levels. Then, at the end of the day, putting these two together, essentially taking matching location of verified lat longs to approved blueprints, we then do a couple of quality checks. So, for example, if we see a location signal in a business at a time where the business isn't closed, we might then not say, okay, that's probably not a visit. That's probably something else that's getting picked up. So running a couple of quality checks like that on that is the third step to actually determining what a visit is. Or employee status is another great example. If we see somebody in a store 10 times a day, 5 days a week, you can probably assume that's not a shopper actually going to buy something. And then essentially how we use all of this information. Again, we collect this, visit. We can do this. We can serve media. At the same time, we do a lot of insights around this where we can say, we know that these are the peak hours for shopping and therefore advise some of our clients, and this is how you should plan your media strategy. There's a couple of other use cases I wanted to point out because in the time that I've been in location, we've really evolved past that whole idea of here's a radius, and I remember 5 years ago it was saying, oh, somebody walks by a coffee shop and you send them an ad and say, hey, come in and use this coupon for a cup of coffee. And it's really so much more than that right now. The first use case additional I wanted to point out that we do with it is audiences. So audiences, there's a couple different kinds. There's location audiences where you can say somebody is a visitor to a brand, where you say that we see this person in this brand very frequently, so you can say that they are a shopper there. And then you don't necessarily need to be reaching these people in real time. You can take that information and use it anytime, for any sort of purpose you want. Behavioral audiences, somebody who does something, goes to high-end retail stores. You might actually call them a fashionista, I think is the example we have called out there. Or really, the possibilities are endless. Taking these location signals and grouping them into any type of audience behavior you want. The other one I say a lot is, if we see somebody at stadiums and sports bars, you can assume that they're a sports fanatic. So those types of things you can do with it. The next one I want to call out is cost per visit. So this is the industry's first pay-for-performance model of driving offline visits. So a lot of the times in the media world, you'll say, we're charging on impression. It's great, but how do you know you're actually driving anything with those impressions? So at GroundTruth, we came out with a cost per visit model where we actually will only charge our clients based on the visits that we are able to drive to the locations that they're trying to drive. And then the last sort of outside of the box use case we use is what we call neighborhoods. So this is areas that identify visitation affinity with a specific store audience. So instead of even just saying this radius or this precise around this location, we can actually see where people are coming from frequently that are going to these locations and create almost like a trade area around a business that you can imagine all the possibilities for that type of data. So whole point of this, there's a lot that's going on with location right now at GroundTruth and a lot of places in the industry. So super exciting space, lots going on. And these women right here are going to tell you some amazing things that they're doing, get a lot more into the technical details. But again, if anybody is interested in the space, happy to talk more about it. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Alicia, who's our senior product manager, to talk a little bit about what she does here and how she got here.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to GroundTruth. So I am a product manager here. And I work as a product manager in Baidu and Tencent, which is Chinese search engine and social networking site. And also, I've been to Berkeley Haas MBA to get my MBA, and also interning in McKinsey. So I started my career as a product manager by accident. So I applied for business strategy role and I got the role, but at the end of the day, I got assigned to be a PM. So when I started my career, I was the only product manager in my team who doesn't have a STEM background. So it's quite tough for me to learn all those kind of front end, back end, the ad serving system, which is the very complex system. So I get a chance to actually connect with a lot of my colleagues, no matter they're engineers or PMs. So I learn a lot from them, how they work on their products, and also how the tech actually work at the back end and front end. So after that, I realized that I need to find my differentiation as a product manager in my team, and I figured that out. Actually, brand display ads is my niche, because a lot of my PM colleagues back then, they always they have mathematics or engineering background, and that they are extremely good at building algorithm or dealing with front-end engineers, but they lack the sense of what the brand advertisers want and how they could talk as brand advertiser talk, as our sales talk, and that's actually my niche. So I actually asked my boss to give me projects specifically in brand display ads, and I became an expert in brand display ads in Baidu. And after 3 years in Baidu, I grew from a product specialist, which is the lower end as a product manager, to product manager. At that time, I got a lot of invitation from other companies to interview with them, because a lot of companies want to build their brand display as arm. So I became the expert in the market so that I have more leverage to choose what kind of companies I want to work for and what kind of title or what kind of resources I want. So after that I worked for Tencent for a year to work on social ads, also in brand display segmentation. After a year, I decided that I'm not gaining the career development support from my boss. So I decided to go for B school to get my MBA. So I realized that a lot of people here in the audience would love to get into product management or transition their career. And I think B school is a very good way for you to transition your career. As I talked with some of you, it's always very important to prepare even before your B school, because when you get to your B school the first year and you already started to look for your summer internship, in the summer internship, all the recruiter actually they're looking at candidates with relevant experiences to the job. If you are looking to be a product manager or senior product manager role, then you need to show some relevance in your previous working experiences to product management. For example, you might need to take some courses in product management or even coding, or do some kind of side project to work with your friends in an app to show that you could actually bring value to the team. Or maybe you have extremely strong analytical skill, business skill set, so that you could work as a business PM. So after the first year, and I joined McKinsey as a summer associate at that time, because I always kind of have the fantasy towards business strategy, and I want to kind of work as a person who could formulate the business strategy for a firm. So I learned a ton in McKinsey, especially in communication skill and also analytical skill, and all those things bring back home for me to come back as a product manager, because as a product manager, analytical skill is always the most important skill set to have, no matter it's data analytics or analyze other people's product, like summarize client needs and how do you actually see your product from now to 3 years later. And the analytical skill is extremely important. And the second thing is about the communication skill. You always need to talk to executives or your teammates and also engineers to share with them why you want to build this product, why it's important, what kind of impact you want to achieve, how do you prioritize them, why you prioritize in this way. Then communication skill is something I learned a lot in consulting firm. I used to be very shy, and I don't love talking in public at all. And not to even, like sometimes in the meeting room, if I need to present something, and I get very nervous. But in the consulting firm, I forced myself to actually talk, because the only value added as a consultant is your talk. Because you need to share your ideas so that you could show that you add value to other people. So right after that, I'm very comfortable in speaking in classroom or in the meeting room and in public. So I train myself in that way. So moving forward, I think, so for me, coming from China to be in Silicon Valley, for me to formulate my career, and it's very important to actually think through what I want to be in the long term. I'm always interested in HR technology field because I want to help people to be more productive and happier in their workplace, which take up so much of our time. So for me to be an HR tech person, then do I want to be a PM or business strategy team, and where I could actually make the most impact? Then I realized that actually PM is a position for me to make the most impact. Then I think about what kind of PM I want to be. Do I need to be a front-end user interface PM, or I want to be system API PM, or I want to be machine learning PM, and where, what is the PMs in the market in the HR technology field, and what are their expertise, and how can I differentiate myself in the field? And the machine learning actually is a differentiator for me. And here in GroundTruth, actually I have a lot of chances to work on machine learning related projects, which helps me a lot. And also, actually, Silicon Valley is like Hollywood. So a lot of times, it's all about what kind of people you know could get you to the next place, which is true. So going to B school helps me a lot because we have very strong alumni network in Berkeley. And also, I actually reach out to a lot of people to set up coffee chat with them to understand what kind of problem they are solving, how they solve them, and also get to know them personally. And I encourage you guys set up some time to invest in your career long term by learning, by actually meeting the people in the field that you want to transition into, and also think through where you want to be and where you at right now, and what is your biggest leverage for you to get to where you want to be, and where are the gaps. So right now I spend a lot of time to learning stuff that I need to learn. For example, I take classes in deep learning in Coursera, and also in system design, which as a PM in machine learning field, I think I have to know that. So I would take some personal time to really learn those things. So unfortunately, I need to go earlier. So, but if you have any question, feel free to reach out to me at LinkedIn, because I take a lot of my time to actually volunteer to help my classmates and other women in their career transition. I'm happy to have phone call with you or have coffee chat with you guys. Thank you.
And we are going to do a panel afterwards and open it up for everybody to ask questions. But since Alicia does need to leave because she's a very hard worker and has an important meeting tomorrow, if anybody has any burning questions right now, we can do those too. If anybody really wants to ask anything for Alicia, where she goes, or you can just reach out to her on LinkedIn and get coffee. That works too. Awesome. Thank you. Oh, it's a. Oh, we do have a question. Oh, I'm so sorry. We'll bring you this mic.
I'm wondering, do you have some suggested top list of questions to ask when you have these coffee shops? What are the good questions to ask instead of, kind of seeming that you're desperate?
I actually spend a lot of time, like I think about what kind of question I would ask people in the coffee chats. So usually I will look at their LinkedIn and I'll look at what kind of companies they worked for before and what kind of projects they have done. And then I will specifically ask them the questions related to the projects they have done and their career experiences. For example, I would ask why, for example, I would ask a person, he is a very senior product leader in a very prominent tech companies. I would ask him how do you find yourself those opportunities and how do you prepare yourself for those opportunities? As a product director in such significant department, how do you actually balance the depth and the width of your the projects you are doing, and how do you actually identify your gap of growth, the gap you need to fulfill as a product leader, and how do you kind of choose which one you want to fulfill first? So really actually have very tailor-made personalized question, because everyone is different and they want to feel special when they spend 30 minutes with you.
Got one more.
So thank you. That was really interesting to listen to. I just wanted to know, so you said you reached out to people who were in the area that you're interested in. How do you convince them to come have coffee with you? I mean, nobody in Silicon Valley, I mean, the first thing is we have no time. Thank you, very nice, interesting, but.
Yeah, I was scared of that very much. During my first year of my B school, I'm like, why people would spend time with me? Like they're so busy, and I also forced myself to do that. At first, I would reach out to alumni because we have connections in that way. Craft out your outreach email. That's very important. Keep it short, and also tell them why you are interested in talking with him, what kind of value, what kind of help you need from that person. Make it very specific, and then the person will make a judgment. Of course, when you reach out to 10 people, not 10 people will respond you, but even though you have 10% or 20% success rate, it's a lot of value to you. So don't be afraid, and also I would like to say that we are all equal. You have value to bring to them as well, not just they offer value to you. So thinking is a equal conversation, then it will help. And also, I would like to say that when you talk with a person, you always love to talk with a person who have insights and also who are fun to talk with. So before you talk to a person, do read and think, so that when you talk to a person, you always have good insights to bring to the table. And when you have so much insight, so much value, then your personality, your fun part will bring out anyway.
Thank you. All right. All right, so now we are going to have Herschel talk to us, who is a software engineer on WeatherBug, so can explain a lot about what WeatherBug does and how they welcome cross-platform technology. So it's all you.
Hey, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Are you able to hear me properly? Thank you. So I'm Herschel Joshi, and I'm a software engineer at GroundTruth here. And it's been 2.5 years since I'm working on the WeatherBug application. So I think, as Sarah mentioned, that GroundTruth has acquired WeatherBug product in late 2016, in the month of November. So before that, WeatherBug was a part of the Earth Networks. And when I joined as an Earth Networks employee, and now I'm a GroundTruth employee. So I would like to talk something a little about my background here. So I'm from India, and I've done my schooling, bachelor's and master's from India itself. And as a part of my master's internship, I was hired in a startup company to work on the iOS applications. And there is a funny story that my boss asked me on a first day to read about Objective-C. And here, I thought that he's asking me to read about the objectives of C language. That's how techie I was. Because as an academic student, I wasn't even aware that apart from Java, .NET, C, and C++, there are other programming languages that could be used to write a program and applications. So that's a great start with my career. But it was a good opportunity for me because I was the only developer there, and I didn't have any seniors or anybody else to guide me with this new platform that I was about to start on. So I read a lot about, I read a lot of iOS development resources, and that's how I started learning the Objective-C and the iOS development environment. And then I was with that company for over a year. And since I was the only one, I used to perform all the duties like, taking the requirements, doing the analysis, talking directly with the clients. And since I was in India and our clients used to be from like USA or Australia, there used to be time zone difference. And sometimes I used to come at office at like 5 a.m. in the morning, and sometimes I stayed like, till the midnight just to attend the call with the clients. But it taught me a lot because if there are any iOS developers who would understand how difficult it is to get an approval from App Store to approve your app and launch it. And at that time, Apple Store used to take like a week to even approve your application. Of course, they got a rave reviews about that, and now they take only 24 hours, but still, it takes a 1 day. So after that job, I worked with many other companies and learned many things. And in 2016, I started my job in WeatherBug, and I started working on this WeatherBug application. So what is this WeatherBug application? So it's an encyclopedia of weather, because because we give you so much information of weather. To be honest, coming from India, I never used to care too much about weather because we have 3 seasons: summer, winter, and rainy. So, and it's and it's constant. I mean, we have definite months that has like 4 months we have summer, 4 months we have winter, and 4 months we have monsoon. But here, even to come out of your home, or while going back to home, I have to look at the weather. Of course, not in Silicon Valley, but I got to know that people are aware about the weather. Like, they would like to know what is the day is going to be, what is so for the people who are working in the field, they would like to know that how is the wind going to be, what will be the direction of a wind, and what is the humidity, pressure, and so many. I mean, that's how I say it's an encyclopedia of a weather. So, so that huge is this app, and even from like I have been working on this app from past 2.5 years. I haven't touched all the areas completely of our application. It's that big. So what we do is we provide you a lot of weather information. We do give you past and future radar informations. We do give you the fire-related information, hurricane-related information, air quality-related information. And if I'm not wrong, we were the first one who started giving the air quality information in our mobile applications. And we have a huge user base and millions of downloads. And our iOS and Android apps have been in top 5 at App Store and Play Store, respectively. Recently, our iOS app has also been featured as a featured app in the App Store. And to work on this application, as I have been an iOS developer, I use iOS platform. And this year, I got an opportunity to even work on the Android platform. And since there have been some cross-platforming technologies available, which are basically to reduce the development time, because so I like to mention here that WeatherBug is available on iOS, Android, Web, Fire TV, Amazon, and Windows platform. So imagine we have like 7 and 8 code bases. So to maintain that huge code base, it's a task. And that's why we wanted to welcome the cross-platforming technology, where we would write a single piece of code, and it should be able to executable on different mobile platforms. And there are some other platforms like PhoneGap, Shanshan, Cordova, but as an iOS user or even a developer, they never gave that satisfactory, feel and view that you feel like you are using a native application. So this year we introduced React Native in our application. So we have a couple of features which are developed in the React Native, and I think apart from me as a developer and some other geekies, nobody would able to identify if it is developed in React Native or native platform. So it's that good, and it gives you the feel that it's almost like a native feature. And so, so main objective of this cross-platforming was, as I said, to reduce the development time, and also, when you have, if your application is already live, and if there are any bugs, and if you want to maintain or introduce minor fixes, you don't really have to go through the approval process again. If it is a complete React Native application, you can do the updates on the fly. So that's there. And so I have a couple of colleagues here who are working on the React Native with me. And we have faced, Sneha, just say hi. And since it's a learning curve for all of us, we have faced integration issues, because our code base is huge and it's a very old application. And to integrate a React Native, which is a cross-platform, into the native application. So we haven't replaced the whole native app with the React Native. We still have a native application, and we have some integration of a React Native part in there. So basically, to achieve that integration was a task, and we all learned that, and we still face issues sometimes, because it's still like new, and we are still learning here. And also, like in our in our app, we have because we are weather and location app. So we have like a lot of, we let user to use the map very extensively. Like you can pan, zoom around, you can drop a pin and add a location. Because we let, so you know what, that you, basically if you're living here, so you might not just be interested in the weather that is here. Your loved ones are maybe in the other states and cities and countries, and you want to get notified what's weather there, if there is any severity or whatever the alerts that you should be getting. So our application lets you do that. So for that map use, for example, with the air quality feature and hurricane feature, we have integrated Mapbox, which is an open source environment in the React Native platform. And that basically gave us an opportunity to dig in the open source code, because sometimes we face issue or there is some crashes or bugs, and then we have to find out the solution. And then Mapbox team has also been very helpful, and we provide them some solutions if we have, like if we find out what's the actual cause, and then they release with their version. So altogether, we don't want to just stick with our native approach, and because we don't want to left behind the technology, because technology is going towards the cross-platforming, and that's why we chose the React Native as a starting platform. And maybe tomorrow, like Google has also released Flutter, and maybe tomorrow we'll accept Flutter. But what I like here is, as a WeatherBug team, we adopted a new technology, and we are trying to learn this new technology and integrate it in our app. So next time, if we have to again adopt any new platform, we won't be that afraid. And with this, actually, I'd like to take this opportunity that as a WeatherBug employee, I really feel good and proud that we have taken this step towards going and matching up with the technology where it is going. And yeah, and thanks everybody for coming here and letting me share my thoughts.
Thank you. And by the way, she told me she was scared of public speaking, and I thought she did an awesome job. So it was very impressed.
Any questions?
So next up we have Shanshan. She's going to talk about being a mindful data scientist. And do you want to click through your slides? Because I know you have some slides.
Yeah, I did prepare some slides.
Push that.
Okay. So before we get into the slides, I would like to do a little bit self-introduction. So I have been here for over 5 years. I started as a summer intern. And I am really the true ground truther. When I first joined, it's a small startup. It's probably only 50 people, and it's called XAD. And we were in a small office, and now we have probably over 300 people. And I'm still I think the only women data scientist on the team. Really welcome people who are interested in data science to explore this field, and it's really growing, and the market has a huge demand for data scientists, not only for the business analyst kind of side, also for the algorithm, machine learning, deep learning kind of area. Really, it's a hot field, and to get started really is not that difficult. And so I graduated from Stanford with a degree in genetics and biomedical informatics. And my PhD thesis was on cell division, the cell cycle of how does the mother cell choose to a position to divide the daughter cell, and how does the two cells separate. That's basically my thesis. And I did half of the bench work to extract DNA, protein kind of analysis, and I did the other, a little bit half on R and data analytics, and that's how I got started. And at that time, 5 years ago, data science is definitely not a big thing, and it's unbelievable how the technology has developed over the years, and we have so much big data, and so many things to learn, and we all see that the AI is transforming our lives, and that's definitely going to be the trend for the next decade, I guess. Yeah, the reason I say I'm a mindful data scientist is it's really that I am kind of living in a way to bring mindfulness into work and also family as a mom of 2 young kids, and bring that mindfulness, teaching them mindfulness is really a big thing to get them behave better. And also I am a certified meditation teacher, so teaching mindfulness, it is part of my daily thing to my family and friends. Okay, and I think we can get into the slides. Is that? Oh yeah. So basically my slides is really easy to read, and I try to put it in a way that to give you some idea that it is easy to get into the data science field as long as you picked up some simple Python scripting and learn a little bit about the different libraries. So really, as a data scientist, it's not going to develop algorithm from scratch. It's all built upon the available libraries. And with a little bit more training and experience, definitely it's very doable, even for people who don't have a good computer science background. So basically, as a scientist, the process around data is the first you define your problem, what kind of problem you're trying to solve. So Sarah has went through a lot of the location intelligence that we do at GroundTruth. For example, we want to detect the abnormal locations, and we want to qualify different locations and give them ranks. So then we can later select what kind of quality of traffic we want to serve. So that could be like one of the problems, giving all the traffic, and how do you rank the location score? That could be like one of the problem that you want to solve. And then once you have the problem properly framed, you want to collect the data. So for this particular location service, it's going to collect all the data around the locations, latitude, longitude, the IP, and also zip code, cities kind of state kind of thing, and then you're going to extract the patterns. So then that goes to how do you design your algorithm and how do you define your test models to test the model you're going to build. And then you evaluate with the metrics and then compare whether the new algo is better than the previous algo kind of thing. So that's the basic framework most of the people will do. And then, so over the 5 years, I did touch a lot of the projects. And in the early stage, I also did a lot of work around data engineering. How do you copy data from the S3 to the local Hadoop cluster, and how do you create Hive tables so that people can write SQL-like queries to inquire data? And also, how do you maintain the cluster? Those are the early kind of stage you're doing the data engineering. But later on, once the platform is pretty stable, we do a lot of modeling work. So the big thing that we do at the work here is around location quality. We call it a smart location. It is basically an engine that you can rank the locations, give them scores, and then you know how reliable the location signals are. And the other big thing Sarah also touched is around the user profile. So basically you build your segmental audience. And then so there are so many audiences. We built like over 100 of audiences. We basically put the different labels around the UIDs. And then you say, oh, this group belongs to the mom group, the kind of luxury car shoppers. So all different segments, they have the different rules and rankings. And for the mom kind of thing, we do the home office detection kind of thing. So for each UID, you kind of looked at the history, you kind of know where they are most of the time, so you can kind of infer the home and office locations, and then you can target and based on the property of the location that they live and they work. And they also do the behaviors, is basically putting on the labels of those segments. So then the advertisers can come in and say, okay, we only want to target this particular group. So the data we work with, we collect the data from the publisher side. The publisher, like the Pandora app kind of thing. When you listen to the app, there will be a panel of the advertisement. And basically what happens is that they send requests to our server asking for a particular kind of advertisement. And then we have this advertisement kind of searching engine. We return the ad that we think this particular user will be most interested. So it's kind of a learning behavior. You kind of know what kind of user he is and what kind of stuff he had previously looked at, and then you return an ad that is relevant. So the data has all different kind of fields. So putting into different groups, it would be like a publisher side feature, the advertisement feature, the features around the user, and the feature around the device. You don't have to read that. That's just basically how the kind of the data looks like. So it's like every time there is a timestamp, you kind of know each individual user, have all the points about the user location and age, gender, device kind of thing. You have basically all the information that you can infer around the user. That's why nowadays we're all talking about whether we have been tracked or whether privacy is the issue. Because when you give this kind of information, we know everything about you, except that we probably don't have your name, but we have your hashed kind of UID. So to us, it's like for each individual UID, you probably know a lot about them. And then, so these are the kind of the things that I use on a daily basis. And if you are interested to explore a career in data science, so these are definitely the things you might want to pay a little bit attention. So Python is definitely easy to use. They have really rich libraries that you can do anything, almost anything. And of course, there are languages that you can easily do to do statistics, but in Python, it's more kind of flexible language. You can easily integrate into a lot of other stuff. I would highly recommend if people are interested. And also the kind of the queries. So once the data is in place, a lot of times you don't need to write the whole pipeline kind of thing. You do ad hoc analysis, pull some data, and see what are you looking for. So you most likely will be using SQL, high-peak kind of scripting things. And then for the really kind of modeling, get into the data analytics, we'll be like using a lot of different Python libraries. It's really easy to use. Do you hear me okay? Okay, I thought you were saying that I'm not holding in the correct position or something. So the data is kind of really messy, and a lot of time we'll be spending on data exploration and the cleaning of the data. So pandas and NumPy are definitely really great tools that you can use. And for the modeling, there are a lot of libraries, and also for the visualization. Yeah, if you're interested, definitely check this out. And we don't have to waste too much time on that. And let's just talk a little bit about location quality. So basically, we're saying that from all the signals we get, and how do we filter off the bad things and select the good ones. And so so the backend is like doing a lot of kind of a ranking, and how do you put like a rules, what are you going to do a frequency capping kind of thing. If you have really quite more questions, we can talk more details. And now I think I'm probably running over time. For the user profile, it's basically understanding the user. We do the home office location detection. It's basically a lot of majority voting, frequency, and clustering kind of analysis. And putting on the tags is really a lot of classification, ranking kind of things. Yeah, and then getting to the evaluation. So the modeling already provides like cross-validation kind of things. And definitely, when you build a model, you want to test that way. And then once you think your model is ready, and then you do the A/B testing, online test, either run a real campaign or just do some simulation kind of things. And then we'll compare with the third party, and to compare with what other people are saying around the data and see how reliable it is. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Anybody have any questions? Thank you.
So, as a marketing person, I feel required to clarify that we don't attach any personal identifiable information to any of that stuff Shanshan was talking about. We know a tremendous amount about a lot of hashed device IDs. So I heard somebody say the other day, we don't care who you are, we just care what you do, which is a really good way of putting it, because we're very, very diligent about making sure that all of the behaviors and location and amazing profiles we're observing are not actually tied back to an individual, because that would be really creepy. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to HR.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I hope I didn't make a false impression that we are tracking you and we're going to go to your house and do bad things.
So Lauren Stephenson, who's our Associate Director of Human Resources Business Partner, is going to talk a little bit about managing performance. So, yeah, Lauren.
A big shift from everything that we've... Is it? No? Can you hear me? All right. If not, I talk loud. A big kind of a shift, but something that I think is increasingly becoming the top of mind for HR professionals, for people who are individual contributors, for managers. So with that, let me just, you're telling me to speak up, so I'll speak up. A little bit about myself. I, as Sarah said, Associate Director of HR, also the Human Resources Business Partner for the company. So a big part of that is focusing on not only running the operations department, but partnering to figure out how we can further drive performance management, how we can further the talent management strategy, and that's equipping managers with the tools to actually think about how do we start treating people like people, right? So very simple. I found out yesterday I had all of 10 minutes to condense what I would speak about in a few hours. So I'm going to try. So a few key things I want to talk about. First thing is thinking about how do you kind of define your playbook as a manager, right? And so the first thing that I want to do, quick poll, how many of you in here are people managers? Managing, a few of you, okay. How many of you are aspiring people managers? We have some future leaders. It's okay, you can raise them high. So I say that because I think one of the first things you need to do when you're talking about defining your strategy as a manager is to step back and check yourself and say, why do I want to assume this responsibility, right? A lot of times people end up getting into managerial positions simply because it's the next step on the career progression ladder. And to me, assuming a managerial responsibility is a great kind of privilege, to be responsible for, you know, talent and people's growth and development, and being tasked to actually carry out the business objectives. So check yourself, and with that, you're gonna hear me say that a few times, is take a step back and say, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish as being a leader? And be intentional about that, right? When you're thinking about, I am responsible for building a team, I am responsible for leading a team, I am being tasked with this, so what do I need to do? Why am I actually signing up to be a manager? And one key takeaway, if you remember nothing else, for my managers is being a manager and being a leader, two completely different things. Please never confuse the two with that. And so kind of when you figured out, excuse me, my mouth is very dry, and so I'm gonna take a sip of water. And this is the part where you see the part of me where I'm very human, in which I wanna stop and clear my mouth. Good, see, we realize that we're all human, right? So moving away from after you step back and you're like, okay, this is why I wanna manage. You start to think about more of the strategic side of actually defining your managerial playbook. And that's thinking about, how do I start to assess the landscape of the company? And that's, you're gonna start thinking about, I need to talk to my C-suite, I need to understand what our business objectives are. That's going to help you determine the type of team that you need to build. So the whole point of performance management, if you wanna make it strategic, is to say, how do I find the right talent, align them in the right roles, continue to drive and push the company's vision so that we can ensure we're carrying out business objectives and building sustained growth. It's like a simplified version of what we're trying to do. And in my opinion, you can't separate the talent experience from the business experience. It goes hand in hand, right? So you're stepping back and you're like, what are we actually trying to accomplish? Assess the landscape. And then from there, you're like, okay, what is the objective? You understand you have your business objective. We're trying to, whatever it is, be the first company to have all organic food, something like that, right? What type of talent do I need to bring in the door to actually drive that objective? And notice when I said talent, I said the right talent. What does that mean? I didn't say I need talent from a top university. I need talent that looks like me, right? You need the right talent. And when you're thinking about furthering your agenda as a company, connecting to your consumer base, if you look out, most of the consumers don't all look the same, they don't talk the same, they don't come from the same walks of life. So you gotta step back and you gotta say, you gotta address that unconscious bias from the gate. That's one of the things that you need to do, is you need to be intentional about the way that you're hiring. You need to think about fostering a diverse workplace, fostering diverse thought, bringing in people who come from different experiences, because that's how you're gonna build a well-rounded team. That's how you're gonna be able to connect with your consumer base and actually be able to create an experience that people are actually gonna gravitate towards. So that's like the second thing. And then once you have that and you've started thinking about the type of talent that you need, you're gonna then move into thinking about, what type of resources do we need? What type of tools do we need? What type of processes do we need? What teams are we gonna be working with? It goes back to communication. That's the common thread in everything that I'm gonna talk about, is you need to be talking, right? You're defining your strategy. I know the talent, I know my objective. What resources do I actually need to put in place to carry this out? And then from there, what is the targeted objective or outcome? How do I assess if all of this was successful once I've sat back and kind of defined what that strategy is? And one thing that I also encourage you to think about as managers is the talent management piece, right? Performance management, talent management. Once you have the right talent, how do you continue to empower them and ensure that they're engaged, that they feel valued, that they feel like they have growth and potential? That's a big key in making sure you're going to foster an environment in which this diverse talent that you've brought in actually can feel included in what you're doing. And I speak on that because it's really important. I think a lot of times we as HR professionals, we get a lot of flack, and I get it, because once upon a time I was not in HR. And I used to always say, oh, HR doesn't care about the betterment of people, it's all about the company. And I understood that for a very long time, and so I think it's time for managers and for leaders and for organizations to step back and really get real about understanding that our people are our biggest asset. Without the people, we can't drive business and company agenda, right? So thinking about that. So let's be intentional around why we're actually managing and how we're actually gonna drive that strategy, and remembering that the talent strategy goes hand in hand with the business strategy. And another thing that I kind of want to talk on from a managerial standpoint, I'm gonna try to be quick, is thinking about how do you continue to build an environment when you're managing your talent that they actually feel that they're safe, right? And so are any of you familiar with Brené Brown? She's like fantastic author, big, yes, got some yeses. She just released a new book called Dare to Lead, and it's fantastic. She references Amy Edmondson, who speaks about psychological safety. And it's a really, really kind of simple concept, but if you think about it, at the end of the day, we all have a job, right? We have these fancy titles and all this, but when we come to work and as people, we want to feel safe. We want to feel like I can make a mistake, I can be human, and I'm not in fear of losing my job because I said or did something wrong. Because what happens when you make a mistake? You try to cover it up, and then you have to lie, and you got to cover that lie, and you keep lying, right? And that's what happens, and you're operating from fear. And so we have to think about this as managers. We have to, are we creating and fostering an environment in which our employees feel like they can actually have an active dialogue and say, I made a mistake. And you're like, it's all good. Let's talk about it. And let's figure out how to not continuously keep making mistakes. But let's foster an environment in which people can feel like it's okay to be human and make a mistake, and we can work towards course correcting and having a more open and active discussion to ensure that they always know how they're doing. And then we course correct, and we keep going from there. It's a pretty simple concept, but I think we lose sight of that because we're always thinking about the big picture and company. Come back to the basics. And then just to switch, right, because I want to talk to the people who aren't in managerial positions, because a lot of times people come and they're like, oh, well, you only work with the managers. What about me as someone who's not interested in managing? Or how do I come to my manager when my manager is not actually putting time into me? So the one thing that I encourage everyone else to do as well, and all of us, right, we're still people, is step back and check yourself and realize that what do you want for yourself, right? 50% of the onus is on the manager. 50% of the onus is on you. It's a partnership. So you need to really step back and say, what do I enjoy doing? You know, what motivates me? What am I passionate about? And when you start to have those conversations with yourself and you start to think about like what drives you, you can start to arrive at, okay, these are the things that I'm interested in. Then start doing the research to figure out, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. And then be proactive in coming to your manager and saying, hey, this is what I'm passionate about. These are my interests. Do those actually align with your role? Maybe you have skills that you can bring into your role. Maybe it does not. And then that's a time for you to say, maybe this is not the group or the company for me to grow within, right? But you can't always wait for someone to show you the way. The most valuable thing that I ever learned in my career, a quick story, I remember when I first started, as someone who is just an athlete, very competitive, just always like, I did that, what's next? Give me more. And I would sit there and be like, no one cares about me, woe is me. I had to get really, really clear very quickly that no one was going to drive my career the way that I was going to drive my career. So yes, it is up to managers to absolutely be pulling out of your talent what it is that they want to be doing, what are they good at. It is absolutely up to managers to do that, but it's also up to everyone else who is not in that role to kind of step up and say, these are my interests, and be vocal. But then flip it back to the managers. Just because someone isn't vocal doesn't mean you still don't have to engage them, right? We gotta think about the people who are naturally more introverted. How do we foster an environment in which they feel safe and encourage them to speak up and go for what they like? And then at the end of that, the common thread into everything is this communication, right? We have to be communicating through the entire process when we're thinking about how we're actually building our performance management strategy, how we're fostering an environment in which people feel safe to actively be having a dialogue with each other. And then once you have that, you start to build and put a process in place in which you have an ongoing performance strategy of continuous conversation. Like, no one does annual reviews anymore. And if people are still doing that, please stop. It is not the way to do it. It's not effective, right? You wait to the end of the year. You wait to the end of the year, and they're like, oh, here's your review. And you're like, how do you know what I did for 11 months, right? You know, what about, how did you correct any mistakes I made? So those are done. Those are a thing of the past. We don't do those anymore. At least we don't do those here within GroundTruth, or I'm not trying to foster an environment like that or encourage that. So why I say that is start thinking about how to have ongoing conversations around performance. If someone makes a mistake, catch it in the moment, talk about it. But make a safe zone so that they can feel like they can make a mistake, because that's going to help them grow. And I think I did, that's 10 minutes?
More or less.
Yeah, I could keep going, but I'll stop. I'll stop there.
I'm impressed.
All right. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it.
All right, so
We have our final lightning round presentation for tonight is Carol Chen, who's Senior Director Software Engineering. I'll just let her take it away.
So, welcome everyone. 4 years ago, I went to my first Girl Geek dinner, which is at Intuit, Mountain View. So at that time, I was thinking, this is a great event. And I was hoping one day my own company can host one of these events. So here we are, finally. So I would like to talk about my journey, how I get here. So I was born and raised in China. I got all my education all the way through college in China. And I graduate and start working. And I was thinking, I want to see the world outside. So that led me to Singapore, where I met my husband, got married. So he got a job offer from United States, and we were talking and decide, oh, maybe we can make United States our new home. So 2001, we land at Bay Area. So I can talk this topic. So I have my bachelor in architecture. And when I get here, I start to check out a few architecture firms. I talk to the architect in those firms and find out what they were doing, mostly residential expansions. So to me, that doesn't sound very exciting. So I was thinking, what should I do? 2001, I think some people may remember, and some people may be too young, so you don't know. At that time, the dot-com bubble just burst. So internet companies, a lot of them laying off, and some of the companies disappeared. But to me, internet and computer science, that's an exciting industry. So I think that's the future. And another thing is, I like math, and I like using algorithms, data structure to solve problems. So I was thinking computer science is the area I want to try. I went back to school and got my master in computer science. I was talking with some ladies during the dinner, and one of the ladies was talking about she was thinking about making a career move. So I want to talk about a few points here. I think there's a study shows only 27% of the college graduate work in the area that directly related to their college degrees. I want to ask, how many people here are working in the area that is not directly related to your degree? Wow. Looks like the number definitely sounds true. So what are the things that you want to consider before you jump into a different area? So I think there are two questions you want to ask yourself. What is your strength? And what is your interest? Ideally, you can find an area where your interest is and use your strengths. That's ideally. But what if it's not really something you're really interested in? So what can you do? I think, there's a lot of online courses. You can learn some of the courses you might be interested and see if that's something you want to do. And another thing is, there's a lot of meetups if you want to get into data science. So you can probably go to some of the data science meetup and talk to those people who work in those areas. What are the things they like about their job, and what are the things they don't like about their jobs? And see if that's the area you want to get into. Yeah, I think another thing is you want to imagine yourself in that role and see, is that something you want to do for the next 10, 15 years? And does that sound like something you really enjoy doing? If it's not, probably that's not the area you want to get into. So I can talk about the next thing. So before we go to what we are working on here, so after I graduate from the Master of Computer Science, I start working in software engineering. I work in different industries, start from e-commerce and then digital coupon companies, and then I work in gaming a couple of years and then land in this company where we do media and mobile advertising. So I like software development. Then how did I step into management? That's probably the next question, right? I actually step into the role naturally. So I work in one of my previous company, and my manager left. So they have been looking for an outside manager to come in. During that time, there's a lot of work need to be done. So I kind of start to take on a lot of those responsibilities. I start working with marketing, sales, and get the product requirement and work with engineers on scheduling and start taking on mentoring junior members, help them step up more. So after a year, they promoted me as a manager. So during that process, I find I kind of like that role. So I like to work with people, and I like to get understanding of what they really want from the product. Another thing is I like to work with engineers. I was an engineer myself, so I know what is their frustration and what are the things that can help to make their work easier. So, and I like to talk to people and understand what is their frustration and what can help. So I start to step into a lot of, learn a lot of the management skill and see that is something that I really enjoy to do. And looks like it is an area I'm still learning. So here at GroundTruth, I want to talk about a few things that we work here. So we're working on some really exciting technologies here. So we have auto blueprinting tool. I think we're using image processing to automatically find out the polygon for the store. That's one of the things that Sarah was talking about for blueprinting the POIs. And we also use machine learnings to find out like users' visitation pattern, so we can forecast if there is going to be future visitations to a store. We also use machine learnings to optimize the bid price so we can improve our winning rate. And here are the few applications my team work on. Ads Manager is a tool that we use to set up advertising campaigns. We have location managers, which you can help user to group and make use of those POIs they can use for targeting and drive visitation to. We allow users to create audience, so we can find out who are the audience that going to McDonald's, who are the audience that going to Macy's. So Macy's can target those people to do their advertising. And I think we have the demo over there, and one of my team members demoed the Discovery, which help brands like McDonald's, Macy's to find out their visitation pattern. So that's one of the projects we work on as well. We also have blueprint tool as well as mobile SDK, so for publishers to help understand their audience where they're visiting. So I want to do a little bit advertising for my team. So take on the opportunity. I have a great engineering team. I can't say too much good things about it. There are some of them over there. And Boo and Morgan. So I really like my team. So my team, I have talented engineers, and they're very passionate about the product we have. I have 2 front-end engineers. Did I mention they're girls? So they're so passionate about the product. So one day they come talk to me saying, we think we need to improve our front-end code, and we did it already. So what, what can you ask for, even better than this kind of engineers? And I have Ambu, which is our as manager lead engineer. There's one day, he just come back from Europe in the morning, 7:30. We have some user complain about a problem. And Ambu was the first one, 7:30 in the morning, jump in, start to answer those questions and fix the problem. And yeah, I can't say enough about these. I have some other engineers during the weekend. Whenever people have questions, to jump in and answer the questions. They're watching out the product. That's how passionate we are working on a project. So yeah, that's the place you really want to work at. And so that's my presentation here. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
So one thing I want to add, because Carol started by talking about how she went to her first Girl Geek dinner 4 years ago and really hoped that it was something a company she worked at would have one day. It didn't just happen that we had one. Carol made this happen. She, yeah, so she approached us with the Girl Geek, said it was an excellent thing. We looked into it, and she really drove this forward. So, thank you for bringing this to GroundTruth, Carol. And we were going to do a panel, but I know we're a little bit short on time, and I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to ask questions. So maybe we'll see if the room has questions for these amazing women first, and then, oh, hands already up, see? And then if we...
Hello, I'm very interested to know, how do you get your data that you're analyzing? Do you purchase these data from other companies? Like, what type of companies are you getting? And how would the recent GDPR regulation will impact your business moving forward?
What's GDPR? So we have a lot of sources we get our data from. Some of it is partnerships that we have. WeatherBug, obviously, since we own them, we get some data directly from our owned and operated. We do have some from the exchanges. And from our point of view, I mean, we are 100% compliant with GDPR. Everybody is 100% consent there. So I think as an industry, GDPR just made everybody take a look in the mirror, get really buttoned up, and make sure they were doing everything to the way they were supposed to be doing everything. So like other companies in the space, I think we just made sure as it was coming, we had all our ducks in a row, and today it's not having a significant impact on our business. So we're just made everybody be a little bit more, I think, transparent and buttoned up. So. So the question, was just around competitors coming out, or do you want to? We finally got the microphone to you.
Say the question on top. If you don't mind asking it, just one more.
Oh my God, that was kind of a long question, but I'll give it another shot. So how are you guys dealing with companies that are like Anchor Free that are coming out with products that basically help the consumer stay private on their searches? Or, I mean, this is sort of like a growing effort, right? So how are you guys, do you think that's a challenge, something to be aware of, or?
No, so I think from our point of view, first of all, we're 100% in-app, so we're not mobile web at all. We're in-app, and again, we're 100% opt-in consent as well. From our point of view, I think it's more we want to educate the industry on the value that we bring. If you ask any consumer, like, do you guys want advertising? Or most people are going to say no, on TV, online, on mobile. Like, people don't like ads, but they also don't like paying for things. So what we've found is it's a lot about education. And I've been at GroundTruth, or what used to be XED, before we rebranded, for about 5.5 years. And I feel like when I first started, people were kind of a lot more sheepish about mobile advertising, and it's been more about educating them on the value that you get from ads. And as we've been able to leverage location to create a more tailored experience where it's not just a spray and pray type situation, they're seeing the value and are willing to give more in exchange for the value they're getting out of the ad. So I don't think we're obviously always aware of companies that are coming up and things that are changing, and it keeps things interesting. But there's always something that's like, oh, is this going to disrupt our business? And you have to just stay on your toes and make sure you know what's going on, and changing with the industry as well. Did that answer your question? We will get you a microphone.
Hi. I actually have a question for Lauren. It's about managing people. So how would you help a person grow when this person actually knows what position she or he wants to be in the future, but then the reasons behind is not really aligned with the company culture or value?
When you want to help someone to grow, but the reason for them wanting to grow doesn't really align with the company agenda, right? I think in those instances, I think it's important to be as transparent as possible, and be very real about what's the current state of the company, what is maybe prohibiting this from happening. Could be a lot of different things. Sometimes you have, sometimes, an employee is like, I really want to get to this level, but maybe the company just isn't there yet. Maybe those levels don't exist for financial reasons. Maybe the company doesn't really know where they're going, so they're not able to really build out these roles because they haven't been fully defined. So it's being honest and being like, this is where we are. I want to help you to develop, and still giving them and engaging them and giving them the opportunity to grow within that area. You can still be giving them projects. You can still be challenging them. But a lot of times, it's also, too, figuring out why doesn't it align with a company agenda as well. Because I think sometimes we can push against that if we fully understand. If you have more of an example, I could really kind of tailor it. But do you have like a specific? We can kind of talk offline as well. Okay. But yeah, I think all in all, it's just really just trying to be as real and as genuine as possible about, look, this is where we are. I want to help you. I want to help you develop and give them the opportunity to gain the exposure that they're looking for. Encourage them to go external as well. But also remembering, that there's just going to be times where you really can't, because the company is literally prohibiting you from maybe moving someone into a role. And in those instances, you just want to do the best that you can with what you have. I know there are times that it really sucks. I experience that often, but you just try to just keep it being, just being transparent with the employee. Is that helpful? Okay. Yeah, we can talk a lot more. I want to get really specific on that one.
I actually went to Carol and Lauren, and they were amazing at helping the situation. Lauren was like, well, tell me what you want, tell me what you don't want. Had him write it all out so we can kind of figure out, like, where in the company could he go? Because to us, we wanted to keep him. To him, he's like, I need more than this wherever it's at. And then had a conversation with Carol, who I was like, this is what he wants to do. We're not really sure his path. And do you have any projects he can help on? Like, what can we do to just help him grow, explore his skill set? So Lauren was definitely amazing at, like, the beginning stages of, like, let's focus. And then Carol was amazing at, like, giving him examples and projects to work on and navigate. And he actually ended up getting promoted from an operations team to engineering, which is almost unheard of that quickly, but because of their kind of support. So it's really just figuring out like what they're good at, and I'm not good at microphones, and exploring from there. So I want to thank you guys again for that, and I hope that kind of answers the questions too. But you don't know at first, and it's just exploring and just giving them, like they did, an opportunity to get there.
He's actually right now in my team, and he's a great application engineer. Thank you, Anna Maria. And thank you, Lauren.
Also work for GroundTruth, and I'm in sales, and I work in New York, so thank you all for coming tonight, because I never get to see people in Mountain View, so this is wonderful. So for me, I don't get to connect with a lot of our engineers very often, because I'm in sales, so I'm the face of, in many ways, GroundTruth out on the streets, and which sounds terrible, but and you're like, oh God. So in many ways, sometimes coming to Mountain View is very refreshing for me, because I get to speak to our engineers, AKA Carol, AKA Human Calculator, who did ridiculous math today in a meeting. And I was like, how did you even do that? But you have no idea what you have in common with people until you talk with them and you're in a room with them. So I very much encourage you, and we don't do it enough even at our own company, not to poo-poo this, because I'm very fortunate to be here, but I think too, be with the people in your organization and sit with them in a room and talk with them. You don't do that enough. It's easy to connect with people over computer and over the phone, but it's not the same in person. When you have the opportunity to sit in a room and across from your engineers and your product and your engineering people, from a sales perspective, that is, for me, priceless. So do that and make time and make budget and carve out budget for that. And it is invaluable, in my opinion. So I'm so inspired by all of you here tonight. And thank you. I'm very emotional because it's so wonderful. I love this.
I do. So hi everyone, my name's Sam. I recently joined the company, and I have to say I'm absolutely loving it. But I do have a question for all of you ladies on the panel, right? So as we look at your background and seeing you as female leaders, what's one takeaway that you can share with everyone here for those who are aspiring to grow in their careers? You know, again, thinking back on everything that you've done, and you've shared so much with us today. If there's one thing that you can share with every person here that you're like, man, had I learned this earlier in my career, that would have been so much more helpful. So any advice that you can give us aspiring female leaders here, we greatly appreciate it.
I don't think I'm technically on the panel. I'm moderating it, but I have the microphone
It
in my
still
hand, so I'm
counts.
going to answer it. And I actually said this earlier in something as well. I think the one thing I wish I had known earlier in my career is to trust myself as a subject matter expert, because I think there are things that you inherently know that you know better than anybody else. And there are times I can think back early on in my career where I'm like, I know I'm right, but other people are telling me I'm wrong, and you just sit there and bite your tongue. And as I've gotten older, I've become more comfortable just saying like, nope, I'm right. I'm very confident that I'm right. I know I'm right. And I wish I could rewind the clock to those. I can just see them, replay them in my mind where I'm just like, I knew it. And so if I could rewind the clock, I would be more confident in myself as a subject matter expert.
So many. But I'd say the number one thing that took me a few years to get comfortable with is speaking up, being able to be vocal against people who are in senior positions, and being able to speak your truth when you believe it to be true, and not being fearful. That took me a while to get comfortable with, and I think that's that fear, right? Operating out of fear. So I would say don't be afraid to, if you have an opinion, to voice that opinion, but have context behind it. I always challenge my team, like, you can say whatever you want to say to me, but just always have context behind what it is that you're saying. And if you feel very strongly about something, or if you disagree, don't be afraid to say, I disagree, that's wrong, or that's not right. And be comfortable with that. And it's not easy for everyone. I'm not saying and go tomorrow, but I challenge all of you to get to a point where you can feel comfortable to say, actually, I don't agree with that, or actually, that isn't right. And that will probably be the biggest thing for me, is just not to be quiet on things that don't feel right for you as a person.
I think my suggestion is, if you want to go in certain direction, talk to your managers and let them know. If you want to become a manager, let your manager know. So I think you want to have a manager that support you, to give you opportunities to step up. And also they can give you opportunities to learn the skill that you need to become a manager. So definitely open that communication with your managers, and also anyone that can help you to gain that opportunities.
I don't have that constructive advice. I would just say, because work takes like about 1/3 of your time, so I would just recommend that take care of yourselves even at workplace. I sometimes heard from people that at work and off work they're two different people. That's a little bit unfortunate. So I would just say, try to be authentic at work also, and live your life at work, and live your life also off work.
Actually, I have a little different theory, that if I feel that until now, if at this moment, if I'm satisfied, I really don't regret about anything what has happened in the past, because that made me come till here. And I would just want to steal few moments here, that so while pursuing studies, college, I had a huge setback, that I was in a college, and it was a degree course for 4 years, and after 3 years the college shut down. So the degree, the 3 years exam and mark sheet wouldn't count for anything. It was just a piece of paper. And I was already in a different city to pursue that course, and I was staying away from my parents. And then when I get back, and I thought that, okay, like I have a 10+2 education, and on the basis of that, I can again enter into the bachelor's course. But for that, on a legal paper, I had to write that for 3 years, I did nothing. And it was a huge setback for me and my parents. It was like very emotional moment for all of us. But then, of course, and on the first day of the next bachelor degree, I went to college, and seeing all those young kids who were like 3 years younger to me, as the day got over, I told my mother, I'll do dishes, I'll do laundry, I won't go to college again. But my parents were so supportive, and they had already know that I am interested in computers, because for a middle class people, we had already spent too much for that degree, which didn't happen. And again, to put me in a computers course, which is again costlier thing, because for a bachelor's in commerce, they don't charge that much, but for a computer science course, it's a huge fees. So they still supported me to go to the college and complete my degree. And I just did not complete my bachelor's. I went ahead and I did my master's too. So, and that taught me a lot, that I cannot stop anywhere. So, I mean, that's what I want to tell everybody here, that if you're satisfied, don't regret any other thing. It's never late. You might feel that, okay, you would have done that then. Start now. Now is the time to do anything and everything. Thank you.
All right, any last questions? All right. On that, we'll hang out a little bit if you guys want to talk to us, ask anything else. And I also want to encourage everybody, if you're interested in learning more about careers and GroundTruth, Sam is displayed. Obviously, we'd love to get to know you guys better too. So yeah, thank you all for coming out. Thank you, Girl Geek. Thank you to these women. And talk to you soon.